Good morning and welcome back. Before we get into today's topic, I need you to stop and pay close attention because what I'm about to share could genuinely save your life or the life of someone close to you. This is information most doctors never raise during a routine checkup. It happens quietly while you sleep, completely undetected, and it is claiming lives every single night. A close friend of mine, a retired school teacher named Harold, 71 years old from Columbus, Ohio, was found unresponsive by his wife one morning. He had gone to bed feeling completely well. No chest pain, no warning signs whatsoever. He passed away before the ambulance could reach him. The cause was a massive cardiac event that occurred during sleep. When I examined what had been happening in Harold's life in the months prior, I found something his primary care physician had entirely missed. Something millions of older adults are doing right now, tonight, without realizing it is silently damaging their heart, thickening their blood, and creating the conditions for stroke and sudden death. A landmark study from the European Heart Journal tracked more than 84,000 adults between the ages of 60 and 80 over 9 years. Researchers found that individuals who practiced a specific set of nighttime behaviors had a 67% greater risk of cardiovascular death during sleep compared to those who made targeted adjustments to their evening routine. 67%. That is not a marginal figure. That is the difference between waking up tomorrow and not. Now, some of you may be thinking, I feel fine, I sleep well, this doesn't apply to me. That mindset is precisely what puts lives at risk. The most dangerous conditions rarely announce themselves. They develop slowly over months and years, like corrosion forming inside a pipe, invisible until it fails completely. Today, I'll walk you through 6 things seniors need to stop doing before bed. They are ranked from number 6 to number 1, and the closer we get to the top, the more critical each one becomes. I'll tell you now that number 2 on this list genuinely surprised me when I first reviewed the data, and most of you are doing it without any awareness. Stay with me through to the end because missing even one of these could have serious consequences. But first, leave a comment below telling me your age and whether you've ever woken in the night with a racing heart or difficulty breathing. I read every comment on this channel, and your responses directly shape the content I create for this community. Now, let's begin. Number 6. Eating a large meal within 2 hours of bedtime. This one may catch you off guard because it appears so harmless. Late dinners, a generous evening snack, leftovers before turning in. These feel routine, comforting even, but here is what is actually happening inside your body, and it is far from benign. After a large meal, your digestive system requires a significant surge of blood to process the food. Your heart must work considerably harder to supply that blood to the stomach and intestines. For someone in their 30s, this is manageable. But researchers at the University of São Paulo found that in adults over 65, postprandial, meaning post-meal, cardiac stress raises blood pressure by an average of 22 points and elevates heart rate meaningfully for up to 3 hours. Now picture that occurring while you are lying down, asleep, and in your body's most vulnerable state. There is also the matter of acid reflux and what is called vagal stimulation. When stomach acid travels upward, which occurs far more readily when you are horizontal with a full stomach, it can trigger irregular heart rhythms in susceptible individuals. After age 70, the lower esophageal sphincter, the valve that prevents acid from rising, weakens noticeably, making this issue considerably worse. The remedy is straightforward. Finish your last substantial meal at least 3 hours before bed. If you are genuinely hungry in the evening, a small, easily digestible snack, a few walnuts or half a banana, is perfectly appropriate. Complement this with a brief 10-minute walk after dinner. Research from the University of Limerick found that a 10-minute post-meal walk reduces blood glucose spikes by 28% and eases the burden on your cardiovascular system during those critical overnight hours. This single change implemented tonight begins protecting your heart immediately. Number 5, taking blood pressure medication in the morning. This is one your doctor has almost certainly never raised with you, and it affects roughly 60% of seniors over 70 who take this medication daily without a second thought. A major study published in the European Heart Journal, full reference in the description, followed over 19,000 patients across 6 years. Researchers found that individuals who took their blood pressure medication at bedtime rather than in the morning had a 45% lower risk of heart attack, a 49% lower risk of heart failure, and a remarkable 66% lower risk of stroke. The explanation lies in a phenomenon called nocturnal hypertension. dangerous blood pressure spikes that occur in the early morning hours, typically between 3 and 6 a.m. This is the window during which most cardiac events and strokes take place. Morning medication peaks in effectiveness around midday and diminishes by the time your body enters that high-risk early morning period. Taken at night, however, the medication is working at full strength precisely when it is needed most. A critical note: do not alter your medication schedule without consulting your physician. Every case is different, and some medications must be taken with food. But bring this research to your next appointment and have that conversation. It could make an enormous difference. This habit pairs especially well with what we will cover at number 4, and together, their protective effects multiply considerably. Number 4, the silent dehydration trap. This is one of the most underestimated cardiovascular risks facing people over 65, and it involves a deeply understandable but dangerous habit. Most older adults deliberately reduce fluid intake in the evening to avoid nighttime bathroom trips. That logic seems sensible enough, but what this practice does to your blood while you sleep is genuinely alarming. As we age, the kidneys become less effective at concentrating urine. The brain's thirst signal, regulated by a region called the hypothalamus, also becomes less reliable after approximately age 60. Research from the University of Connecticut's Human Performance Laboratory found that older adults can be significantly dehydrated without ever feeling thirsty. Here is the direct connection to your heart and brain. When you are dehydrated during sleep, your blood becomes thicker and more viscous. Think of the difference between water and honey moving through a pipe. That heavier blood requires far more effort from your heart to circulate. It also clots more readily, which is precisely the mechanism behind strokes. A study in the American Journal of Epidemiology found that adults over 65 who were mildly dehydrated at bedtime had blood viscosity readings comparable to those observed immediately before a thrombotic stroke. The solution is not to drink heavily right before sleep. That will simply disrupt your rest. Instead, consume a full glass of water with electrolytes, particularly potassium and magnesium, roughly 2 hours before bed. Foods naturally high in potassium, a small sweet potato, or a few dried apricots in the late afternoon help sustain hydration through the night without burdening the bladder. Magnesium specifically relaxes arterial walls and helps lower blood pressure during sleep. Together, these two nutrients provide your cardiovascular system with a gentle but meaningful layer of overnight protection. Quick pause. If this channel has been valuable to you, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe. We are a community built around the belief that aging with strength and vitality is absolutely achievable. Every like and subscription helps us reach more people who need this information. It genuinely matters. Number 3, nighttime screen use. This one breaks my heart because I encounter it constantly, and I witnessed it directly with a patient named Dorothy, 78 years old, from Tucson, Arizona. Dorothy came to me following her second minor stroke in 18 months. She was on appropriate medications, she exercised, her diet was reasonable. But when I asked about her evenings, she described a pattern I recognized immediately as a serious cardiovascular concern. Every night, she spent 2 to 3 hours lying in bed scrolling through her tablet, news, social media, family videos, with the screen just inches from her face. She had no idea this habit was steadily destabilizing her cardiovascular system. Here is the science. Blue light from screens, phones, tablets, televisions directly suppresses melatonin production. Most people associate melatonin only with sleep, but researchers at Brigham and Women's Hospital, affiliated with Harvard Medical School, have demonstrated that melatonin also plays a critical role in cardiovascular protection. It functions as a potent antioxidant, shielding the inner lining of blood vessels, the endothelium, from the oxidative damage that leads to plaque accumulation, arterial stiffening, heart attack, and stroke. When nighttime screen use suppresses melatonin, that protective function is essentially disabled. In adults over 70, whose natural melatonin production is already reduced by approximately 75% compared to younger adults, this suppression is particularly harmful. A study from the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that chronic exposure to light at night was linked to a 43% rise in major cardiac events among older adults. Dorothy followed my recommendation and established a firm no-screen rule after 8 p.m. Within 6 weeks, she was sleeping more deeply than she had in years. Within 4 months, her inflammatory markers, specifically C-reactive protein, a key measure of cardiovascular inflammation, had dropped by more than 30%. She has not experienced a cardiac event since. Removing screens 2 hours before bed is one of the most powerful cardiovascular choices you can make. Number 2, sleeping on your back. Before you dismiss this, stay with me, because the evidence here is impossible to argue with. When you sleep flat on your back, gravity pulls the tongue and soft tissues of the throat backward, partially or completely obstructing the airway. This is the primary mechanism behind obstructive sleep apnea, a condition estimated to affect 50% of adults over 65, the majority of whom have never received a diagnosis. During apnea episodes, the brain triggers an emergency response, flooding the body with stress hormones, primarily cortisol and adrenaline. Blood pressure can spike to dangerous levels dozens, sometimes hundreds of times per night. Each episode lasts only seconds, brief enough that you never fully wake, but significant enough to cause serious damage over time. The American Heart Association now formally recognizes untreated sleep apnea as a major independent risk factor for high blood pressure, atrial fibrillation, heart attack, and stroke. A study published in the journal Circulation found that adults with moderate to severe sleep apnea had a 58% higher risk of fatal cardiac arrhythmia during sleep. This is how outwardly healthy individuals die quietly in the night. If you share a bed, ask your partner whether you snore or appear to stop breathing momentarily during sleep. If you sleep alone, record yourself for one night using your phone's voice memo function. The signs are often unmistakable. Sleeping on your side, particularly your left side, which reduces direct pressure on the heart, is substantially protective. A simple body pillow positioned behind your back can prevent you from rolling over during the night. For those with a confirmed sleep apnea diagnosis, a CPAP device is genuinely life-preserving. Do not allow discomfort or resistance to keep you from using it. Number 1, chronic unresolved emotional stress before sleep. We have arrived at the most dangerous bedtime habit for seniors, the one that connects everything we have discussed and amplifies every risk along the way. Take a moment to think about your typical evening. Do you watch the news, politics, crime, disasters right before bed? Do you lie awake cycling through concerns about your health, your finances, your family? Do you replay difficult exchanges from the day? If so, you are engaging in what researchers at the University of California, Berkeley describe as rumination before rest, and its effect on the cardiovascular system is severe. When you experience psychological stress, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline, the same hormones triggered by sleep apnea, but in this case, sustained. Prolonged evening stress keeps these hormones elevated throughout the night, preventing blood pressure from completing its natural overnight reduction. Cardiologists refer to this as nocturnal dipping. In a healthy individual, blood pressure falls 10 to 20% during sleep, giving the heart and vessels essential recovery time. Under chronic stress, that recovery never fully occurs. A 20-year study conducted by the American Heart Association in collaboration with researchers at Johns Hopkins University found that adults who reported habitual nighttime worry and elevated evening stress had a 72% greater lifetime risk of fatal cardiovascular events compared to those with lower evening stress levels. After age 70, when the body's ability to regulate cortisol has already declined by roughly 40%, this effect becomes even more pronounced. This is what ultimately took Harold. It was not one isolated factor. It was the accumulation, the late meals, the dehydration, the screen exposure, the back sleeping, and underneath it all, a man who spent every night quietly worrying about his retirement finances without ever voicing it to anyone. His cardiovascular system never received the restoration it desperately needed. The response to this does not have to be complex, but it must be deliberate. 30 minutes before bed, practice what I call a cardiac wind down. Turn off all news and screens. Write down 3 things that went well today. Research from the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley shows this simple practice measurably lowers cortisol within 20 minutes. Practice 4-7-8 breathing. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 7, exhale slowly for 8. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural calming mechanism, and directly reduces heart rate and blood pressure. If prayer or meditation is part of your life, this is its most meaningful application, not as ritual, but as genuine physiological support for your heart. Pair this routine with magnesium glycinate, 200 to 400 milligrams taken 30 minutes before bed. Unlike other forms of magnesium, this variety crosses the blood-brain barrier and directly settles the nervous system while relaxing blood vessel walls. Research from the National Institutes of Health has found it reduces nighttime cortisol and improves sleep quality in adults over 65 by up to 39%. Think of it as a quiet reassurance to your heart that it is safe to rest. Closing thoughts. I want to leave you with something I say to every person I sit across from, regardless of their age or condition. It is never too late. That is not hollow encouragement. It is biological reality. The human body, even at 75, at 80, at 85, retains a remarkable capacity to recover and adapt when we eliminate what is harming it. Your heart wants to beat steadily for decades more. Your mind wants to remain sharp and engaged. Your legs want to carry you to your grandchildren's celebrations, your garden in the morning, your porch in the evening. Every change I described today, finishing meals earlier, adjusting medication timing, staying hydrated, stepping away from screens, shifting your sleep position, and safeguarding your emotional calm, every single one of these is within your reach. Tonight, not next month. You did not reach this age by giving up. You made it here because you are resilient, and the people who love you are counting on you to keep going. Not merely alive, but present, engaged, and fully yourself. That is what these habits protect. Not just your heartbeat, your life. All the studies referenced today are linked in the description below. Please share this with someone you care about, a spouse, a sibling, a friend, because you may never know whose life it reaches. If you are not yet subscribed, please do so now. New content goes out every week, focused entirely on helping you live longer, stronger, and with the independence you deserve. And before you go, leave a comment. Which of these 6 habits surprised you most? And are you planning to make any changes tonight? I read every single comment. Take good care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next one.